Hello everyone. This video will demonstrate creating a graphical user interface for a grade calculator. We are going to create an application something like this, okay? Wherein we're going to use three labels for asking the user to enter the scores for three tests. And then we are going to provide a text field wherein a user is going to enter those scores. And when the user click on the average button, it's going to calculate and display the average of the scores in label 8. Okay. And when the user will click on the quit button, the application will quit. So we are going to create an application that looks like this. Okay. So this is a wireframe for that application. So let's see how to create it using Tkinter. So I'm going to go to the code. Let's see here. And I'm going to import the library first. So import the library. Remember, commenting is a good and standard software development. It's a part of a standard software development process. So, and it is a good practice. So use comments in your code. So I'm going to say import tkinter. Okay. And let's define a class. And I'm going to say, let's say grade calculator. Okay, so that's the name of my class, grade calculator. And let's create an initializer, self, and then I'm gonna create a main window first. So I'm gonna say self.main_window is equals to tkinter.tk. Okay, so I have, oh, my bad. This has to be class. Okay, so I created an initializer wherein I created a main window. And I say that it's an object from a tkinter class. Okay, now we're gonna define the geometry. So I'm gonna say self.main_window dot geometry. Yep, and I'm gonna provide 400 times 400. You can select whatever you want here. You can provide your own numbers. Just trial and error and see what looks good. Okay. So herein, I provided the geometry of the window. Now, if we'll look at this picture, keep this as a reference. So we have like 4 labels and 3 fields, right? So let's create the label and let's first also create a title of this. So I'm gonna say self.main_window.title, and I'm gonna say it as grade calculator. Okay, let's create a label. So I'm gonna say self.label1 equals to, and tkinter.label, and the first argument is always the one wherein you want to place your label. So I want to place my label in the main window, right? Then put the text on the label, and the text is enter the score for test 1. So I'm gonna say enter the score for test 1, right? Okay, and then I want to adjust the font as well. So I'll say font equals to, well, we have used this, so let's copy it from the previous program. And from here, okay, it's here. So let's go here. I'm gonna put font is equals to Helvetica, bold, and 15. You can choose any font like Times New Roman, Arial, or Italic, etc. Okay, so I created this label. Now I want to put it at a proper place. So I'm going to say self.label1.grid. Okay, and what I'm gonna assume is I'm gonna assume that label 1 is in the first row, first column. The entry field is in the first row, second column. Label 2 is in the second row, first column. Entry is in second row, second column. Okay, so I'm gonna follow that convention. So I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna say column equals to 1 and row equals to 1. Okay, sticky equals to tick enter dot east and add x equals to 10, comma, add y equals to 10. Okay, so I have placed it on the main window. Let's just check and see. Okay, again, to check, you have to also write the main loop so that my GUI stays on the screen. And then you have to create an object of this class to run it, right? So I'm gonna say my calculator later equals to the name of the class, which is grade calculator, right? Let's run this. Okay, and it is showing it like this, which is good, right? So it is showing properly. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is, because this code is working good, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna copy it. Okay, and herein I'm gonna change the name. So this is my label 2, and herein I'm gonna say enter the score for test 2, and I'm gonna say sub dot label 2 dot grid, and so this is row 2, column 1. Okay, and similarly, I'm gonna create a third label. So I'm gonna say label 3 here. I'm gonna say label 3 here and enter the score for test 3, right? Okay, let's see if this works. So I'm gonna run this code and okay, the label 3 is not showing up. Okay, and let's see why. So test 2. And because in the grid, I did not specify that this is the row 3, right? Now I'm gonna run this. And good, it is showing enter the score for test 3. Okay. Okay, so my 3 labels are created properly. Now, one more thing that I would like to do here is I am going to increase the width because when my test field will come, it won't look, I think, I am guessing that it will go out of my screen. So I'm going to change the width to, let's say, 500. Okay, and let's see. Okay, and we have enough space for creating the buttons and all those things. Okay, good. So let's see the entry field. So let's create the entry field. Okay. So I'm gonna go here. And so I am done with these 3 labels. Now I have to create these entry 5, 6, 7. And let me see, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, and there is one more label that is average, right? So I'm gonna create one more label. I'm gonna say 4. Okay, and I'm gonna say the text as average, and we are going to actually dynamically change this text, okay, and replace it with the average of the 3 test scores that the user is going to enter, right? And here and I'm gonna say label 4, and let me check one more time. It's average, okay. And I'm just gonna create a, let's say, more padding over here. Okay. Okay, let's see, run this code. And it has disappeared. It's not showing up. And let's see why. So label 4, this text equals to average font. Okay, yeah, because I did not change the row and the column. So I'm gonna say this would be in the 4th row. Let's see it if I put it as column 2, would it show it? How would it show up? Okay, so it is showing up like this, right? And padding is 20. So I will say column 1, peek into, see, the C works for center. Okay, there's no attribute C. So for now, I'll just keep it as east. Okay, now let's create the entry fields. So let's create the entry field. So I'm going to say self dot input 1 equals to tick enter dot entry, right? And again, where do you want to put it? I want to put it in the self dot main underscore window, right? And font, I'll keep it as same like this. Okay. I'm going to change the width. Okay. And I want to display this next to the first label, right? So I'm going to say, I'm just going to copy this grid thingy here. I'm going to put it here. Okay. And I'm going to say it as self dot input 1 dot grid. So input 1 dot grid. Column is 1. Column will be 2 because we want to display this entry box next to the first label, and row will be 1. Right, let's see. Let me show you how does it look. So I'm going to run this again, and let's run this again. Okay, it is here, and see, it looks like this, right? Okay, and same thing we'll do with the second one. Okay, so I'm going to create 3 entry boxes again. All you need to change is the row and column value in the grid. Okay, so this is my input 2. The grid will be input 2, and here and I'm going to say it's in the row 2, column 2. Then this is my input 3. This is input 3. It's in the row 3, column 2. Right, let's see. Let's run this and check. Okay, and it looks good. All right, this is looking good. Now we want to create, now let's again see the diagram, right? So it has one button average and it has another button quit. So now we're going to create these 2 buttons. So let's see. Herein, I'm going to create a code for the button 1. So I'm going to say self dot bdn1 equals to tick enter dot button. Okay, I want to place it in the main window, so I'm going to place it in the main window. I forgot to put self in front of it, so button and self dot main underscore window. Okay, the text on the button equals to what was this text again? The text is average. Okay, so calculate average. Okay, and this, and let's put the font. Okay, font is this much, right? Okay, so I created the button, I defined the font, and I've defined the text on the button. Okay, now let's grid it. So I'm gonna say self dot btn1 dot grid, and I want to grid it in, let's say, column equals to 1, row equals 2, and I want to put it in, okay, row 5, below the label, right? Sticky equals to tick enter dot east, and Pad X and pad Y, I'm going to take it as 20. So 20 and pad Y equals to 20. Okay, let's see. And I'm wondering why this label is not popping up. Okay, label 4, tkinter.label average is the text. And okay, let's see. Let's run this and check first. Okay, so everything is fine, right? This is this one, the average that you see. The first average is the label, the second average is the button, right? Now nothing is happening when we click this button because we have not written a code for that yet. Okay, and then now I'm going to create another button that is quit. Okay, I'm going to create another button. I'm going to name it as btn2. I'm going to say the text equals to quit. Okay, is it quit? Yes. Okay, and row, I want to put it in the same row as the other button, but the column 2. Okay, okay. Now, you know that if you want to call a function on the click on a button, then we write it as command, right? So I'm going to say command is equals to self dot main underscore window dot destroy. Okay, so this is for destroying the main window when the user click on it. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to run this code and let's test. Okay, and why didn't it run? Okay, something is wrong. Bad option command must be, oh, it's not in the grid, my bad. Okay, it's not in the grid. The command, we write it in the button. So I should have written it over here. Okay, not here. After this, so I'm gonna say, okay, what did it do? Okay, something is wrong. Okay, row 5, this is column 2. And herein I'm gonna write the command. I'm gonna say self dot main underscore window dot destroy. Okay, something like this. Okay, let's run and check. So I'm gonna run this. Oh, okay, the quit button is not showing up, and let's see why. Okay, this is button, and instead of average, I should write it as quit here. Okay, bdn1.grid, column 2, row 5. Okay, let's see. Okay, it's here. Okay, and I see the button is not popping up, and let's see why, because I wrote it as button1.grid instead of button2.grid. Okay, let's run this. And the average button is popped up, the quit button has popped up, and when I click on quit button, it is, the main window is, it exit, right? So main window is destroyed after this. Okay, now what we have to do is, we have to write a function that takes these, let's say if I am inputting a value 100, okay, or 98, or 98. So we have to write a function that when we click on average, it will print the average of these three values. Okay, so we have to write a function for that. Okay, and let's see. So we have seen this kind of question in the previous example as well, wherein I created an application for kilometers to miles converter, right? So let's see how to create that. So now I want to call a function when the user click on the average button, which is the code for which is over here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say command equals to, and let's say I will call the function as average. Okay, now let's create a function here for the same. So here inside the class, okay, you have to create a function inside the class. So I'm gonna take it here. I'm gonna say define average. Okay, okay. Now when you have to dynamically change the value of a label, you have to create a variable, right? We have seen this in miles to kilometer example. If you're not sure about it, please watch that video. Okay, now my label wherein I am putting this average is this one. Okay, so what I would do is I'll create a variable here. Okay, and I'm gonna say self.awg. The name of the variable is self.awg, and I'm gonna say that as tkinter dot string var. Okay, and herein when I create that label of average, what I would do is I'll create a variable inside this. There will be a property called as text variable. And I'm going to call that variable there. So self.avg. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to dynamically set this value. Okay. So herein, first of all, I have to call those values, right? In my function, I want to retrieve the values that is being put into the entry box, right? So I'm going to write that function over here, and please make sure that you write comments, okay? Now I'm going to just say get 3 test scores. Okay, and I'm gonna say self dot, let's say create a variable test1 equals to my entry box. My entry box is self dot input 1, right? My entry box name is self dot input 1. So I'm gonna say self dot input 1 dot get. Okay, so that will retrieve the value that is there in this entry box, right? Okay, and let me see why it is giving an error undefined name self. Okay, because when we write a function inside a class, we have to put the self parameter over here. Okay, so same way, I'll create 2 more variable, test2, and that will be is equals to self dot input 2 dot get. And same way, self dot test3 equals to self dot input 3 dot get. Okay, now whatever you put into the entry field is generally a string, okay? But when you calculate an average, how to calculate an average? The formula for calculating the average is you take the addition of these 3 test scores and divide it by 3, right? So herein, what you're going to do is you are going to do some arithmetic calculations, but the value that you will get over here will be a string value, because the entry field always take it as a string. So you have to convert it into a value that can be processed for mathematical calculations. So for that, I'm going to convert it into float. So convert it into float value. And same thing goes here. Same thing goes here. Okay, so I converted these all values into a float value. Now let's create a variable that will calculate the average of these. So I'm going to create a variable average, okay? And where is the value of it? It's in the variable self dot test1 plus self dot test2 plus self dot test3, right? It is in this variable divide by 3.0 or just 3. Okay, and where do you want to set this value? I want to set this value in the label 4, okay, wherein I am saving the average. So this one. So I want to change this dynamically with that value. So what I would do is I created a variable over here. So I'm going to set this variable with the value of average. So I'm going to say self.average.set, and I'm going to write, so I'm going to use f strings, and I'm going to say average equals to, and I'm going to write the value of average. Okay, now if you'll see, again, what is being set in this will be a string variable, but average is not a string. It's a number. So you have to convert it into average. You have to convert it into a string. So to convert it into a string, I would write it like this. Okay. And it is giving me an error. Now let's see why. Average. Okay. So I'm going to say self.average. Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to run this code. And let's see. So I'm going to test with three numbers, 98, 98, 98. When I click on average, and it is showing the average as 98, right? Okay, let's change the numbers. Okay, you can also have a reset button here wherein you're going to set this with a blank text field. Okay, and let's see, 100, 98, and let's say 60. Average. Okay, good. I'm just clicking on quit. We'll quit this application. So I hope you have understood. I hope you have understood how to create this application. Okay. Now, a few more things that you can add in this application is once you run this code, right? You can write a code for validating whether the person is entering a number or alphabet. So for example, if I put an A over here, it should give me an error, okay, when I click on average. So you can create a code for checking that. You can also create a code for checking if the user has kept this field empty. Okay, if the user is not putting any value in over there, so what should happen? Okay, so I hope you have understood how to create this application, and happy coding. Thank you.